Thank you for auditing the unedited new music review show hosted by a French professor who's excited to talk about 21 Pilots' MTV Unplugged. I really love the band, but I'm going to be maybe a little bit provocative here. I tend to be provocative. I'm going to be breaking this down into the two elements, 21 Pilots and MTV Unplugged, and I want to address something that's really been on my mind. I love the 21 Pilots, and I really do. I've reviewed them a couple times. I do think they're one of the greatest active bands, while at the same time, I understand the hatred that people have for them. My initial reaction was repulsion because I'm an old guy. I'm in my 40s, and I grew up on Led Zeppelin. I grew up on the real Nirvana. You know what I mean? That's how I grew up. So I'm a lover, but I'm going to sort of discuss maybe where some of the hate comes from. I had a kind of goofy idea watching the 21 Pilots MTV Unplugged. You can watch the entire thing. I guess it's been up for 10 months. I didn't know. It's now released on Tidal, on streaming. But the comparison that I came up with was that they're sort of like Radiohead meets the Paul brothers. Now that's a really wild thing to say, and it's very insulting and overly complimentary at the same time. Like I said, I'm being provocative. And when I make the comparison to the Paul brothers, obviously I'm being very kind to the haters and very mean to 21 Pilots. If you don't know who the Paul brothers are, they're these two blonde sociopaths who scam all their fans and make lots of money off of YouTube, and they used to make money off of Vine and cryptocurrency and fake battle raps and exploiting their friends and sort of everything that is seen as wrong with internet culture and especially YouTube culture all goes to them. So how dare I compare that to 21 Pilots, this great band that makes music that really relates to people? Well, I think to a certain extent there's the sort of superficial similarities. There's two Paul brothers, there's two members of 21 Pilots. They're both Midwestern, suburban white kids, both from the state of Ohio. Both of them now live in California. And all four of them now live in California. All four of them have become really famous. And they end up representing to people a lot of what they see as the loss of these young kids these days. It's not entertainment to just throw money at somebody. It's not entertainment just to film yourself every day. That's not rock and roll. There's keyboards in there. That's not rock and roll. They're using auto-tune. That's not rock and roll. They're using drum machines. The mixture of genres that is seen in 21 Pilots is very difficult for people of a certain age like myself to get behind. Perhaps the greatest link between them is this sort of perception of a bland Midwestern whiteness. It's part of their brands, one could say, because statistically, more people in this country relate to bland whiteness because bland whiteness is a majority of the country. The majority of all people are bland, and the majority of people in this country are white. So it all kind of works out, But really, it's the rapping that I think can help you connect them the best. Because the Paul brothers make what is objectively the worst rap music ever made. Vanilla Ice has nothing on the Paul brothers. They do these kind of like battle raps and they brag about this wealth. And just, it's like everything that is bad and pointless that you could possibly find distilled into its purest essence. Everything bad and pointless from hip-hop and devoid of any of its strength or power, any of its voice of the voiceless, any of its being a representation of people who are underrepresented or marginalized. It's just the worst. Really the worst. And when I first heard 21 Pilots, that's how I felt about their rap bits as well, because they often will break into raps. And even though they're talented enough, this is not the voice of the voiceless. This is just using rap, not like some kind of important subculture of black youth culture, which is one of my favorite definitions by Katwana of hip-hop. It's just like using rap as a form, like they would use reggae, like they would use heavy metal, like they would use punk. Sort of going beyond that, the way they present themselves as being kind of bland Midwesterners. The drummer Josh kind of presents himself as just kind of a gym bro meathead. They both are dressed in this like Mormon missionaries, the white button-up. That's why I'm wearing this shirt right now. And they didn't even do this bit, the top. Most of the songs are like to his mom, like he sings so much about his mom. And by the way, there's a lot of interstitials in here. I'm going to ruin the interstitials for you. He sounds exactly like Roman Roy. He sounds exactly like Kieran Culkin when he's talking. I've put that in your head. I'm sorry. But that's the hater. That's me trying to explain where some of the venom towards 21 Pilots could be coming from. But what about the positives? How dare I compare them to Radiohead, my favorite band? Well, the thing is, they're true musicians. Very, very talented musicians who experiment with their art. Each album is different. They're not afraid to throw off their fans, for better or worse. Their intersection is very important. They are very much a band that plays together, and each of their musical contributions is necessary. You could not just get a studio musician. Much like in Radiohead, there's basically one guy driving, but without the other guy, it would not be as good. It wouldn't be nearly as good. It would be the difference between a Thom Yorke's solo album and a Radiohead album, meaning a huge chasm, Behind me, you see two 21 Pilots albums, which I would say are 10 out of 10 albums. I mean, Blurry Face and Trench are just amazing. They're just great albums. And all you haters, I hear you. I hear the auto-tune. I hear the Midwestern white guys rapping. I hear it all. But I hate to tell you, the songwriting's good, the production's good, the performance is good, all of it. And part of what makes this Unplugged thing so fun is just how much fun they seem to be having. How much they're playing with their own songs, with their own songwriting. And there are many times where the rhythms that you hear in this and the instrumentation that you hear in this remind me of when I would watch Radiohead live and they would be playing along. This whole thing is based on creating loops on stage and using those loops to play. That's something which I've only ever seen one other band do. Well, two. I think Sigur Rós did that too. But basically, Radiohead does it all the time. They create loops and then they play with the loops on stage, usually with a Chaos box, cool little roll-in toy. But here they are doing this. So that's my 21 Pilots general principle theory, which I think is interesting. Tell me what you think in the comments. Are you a hater who hates them being compared to Radiohead? Leave a comment. Are you a lover who hates comparing them to the Paul brothers? I don't blame you. You can put that in the comments as well. Smash the like bucket, subscribe, all that. My channel's been taking a beating lately. No one wants to hear me talk about Metallica. Yeah, no. So that's the 21 Pilots bit. What about Unplugged? MTV Unplugged. I am a child of the 90s, so I have an adversarial relationship to MTV Unplugged. It was oppressive in the 90s. It was basically an excuse for rich-ass rock stars to come up and be pretentious. I think of bands that I like, Aerosmith, Alice in Chains, going up there and can you believe we're playing an acoustic guitar? I've got to sit down. I remember being so disappointed that Kurt Cobain was wearing a sweater and was sitting down. I was like, you sell out. You're just doing the same thing that every other band does when they come to Unplugged. Just take it so seriously, I mean, that's, The Rock becoming unplugged. That was one of the archetypes. The other was just an unplugged band just doing their own thing, like Sting or like Neil Young. Neil Young was in his acoustic phase and he did an acoustic concert. Although there is an acoustic cover of Transformer Man, which is great. And then we get to the juggernauts, the giants of MTV Unplugged that define the actual... Can we call Unplugged a genre? I think we can, or at least a venue, a kind of thing. Eric Clapton and his insufferable cover of Layla, which was played everywhere, which was as big of a pop hit as it's ever been. And, of course, the Nirvana Unplugged, which, okay, it's good. It's good. But what can you do? You can't screw up Cobain's songwriting. I only own one Unplugged CD. That's Jay-Z Unplugged. Speaking of one, I bought this the day it came out because I buy everything Jay-Z releases the day it comes out. I have even before September 11th when I bought the Blueprint. I've listened to this one time. Don't care for it. I don't listen to this anymore either, but for very different reasons. I don't like it. It's not fun to me. It's not fun to me. So in general, I'm not a fan of MTV Unplugged, which is why I am comfortable saying 21 Pilots made the best Unplugged. They did. I think they explored the concept of Unplugged and did it the best. And we can see how in their intro track. The intro track, which is just Tyler Joseph talking. much like Toby is talking. Hey, Toby, please stop barking. I've had a terrible time doing videos today. They were the people with the leaf blowers, Toby. Toby, come. Dogs. Come here, Toby. Come here. I'm going to help you. Toby, come. Come. I'm talking about 21 Pilots. So this intro with Tyler Joseph. I'm going to read the entire thing because I think it's important. It really shows their ambition. And this is that Radiohead thing I'm talking about. They could have just showed up and done stuff acoustic, but they did something much more interesting. Hello, we're 21 Pilots, and welcome to our MTV Unplugged. Now, as you can see, up here, we're very plugged. But to me, the series has become a lot less about performing your songs acoustically and more about a band or artist presenting themselves in a different way than they traditionally would. Usually when Josh and I perform, we play with pre-recorded tracks. Whoa! Toby, just chill out, buddy. Pre-recorded tracks, he's admitting, he is letting you with a peek behind the curtain. Remember those haters I was talking about? Oh, the haters don't like this fact. They play concerts with pre-recorded tracks. You think Jimi Hendrix, Mitch Mitchell, Noel Redding went out there at Monterey Pop Festival and pressed play on a recorder before they started playing? You call this rock and roll? Okay. But he's admitting it, which I think is strong. But tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to build out these tracks in real time in front of you, using hands-free looping and some sampling. Hopefully we play everything in time and we'll end up with brand new versions of our songs. There might be a few awkward transitions because we have a lot of presets, so embrace the awkwardness, I guess. What an idea. What a fascinating idea. You know, he says in one of his songs, never trust a song that's flawless. And that's one of the problems with 21 Pilots is their songs are always so flawless. And this is, to be honest, oddly flawless. But I watched the video. I'm looking for the seams. I'm trying to see the secret of how they put this stuff all together. And really how they put it all together, as far as I can tell, is they just did it. They actually did this, and this is ridiculously difficult. Creating loops in real time and syncing them up requires a level of technological and musical and rhythmic understanding, which is outrageous. This is an outrageous, successful piece of art that they were able to make here. And they're having fun with it, which is what I really like. You know, he's sort of proud of how nerdy he is. Later, he shows off his notebook and says, here's my notebook. Dad, in a lot of ways, it sort of reminds me of Stromae, the Belgian singer, who will take you behind how he makes his songs, and he'll show you the layering and the construction, and that's kind of how it feels. And what I like about this is I always goof on Josh, the drummer. There's Tyler, the singer, and Josh, the drummer. But he's really showing off here. He's really showing off that he's not just Animal. You know, he's not just a gym bro who can play drums really well. Like, he's doing a lot of work with the sampling and the cutting things up and getting it right and playing along with it. And he even sings, which is fun. You know? He can sing. Wow. So, let's get to the stamp. Hopefully we won't have any more leaf blowers, any more Tobys. We'll just do the stamp as the first track, Stressed Out, which is also sort of the song Blurry Face. Starts off with a drill, percussion, and beat, and then Josh comes in and basically emphasizes this loop that he created on stage with these pads playing additional beats. They sing really well together. They harmonize, like Josh and Tyler are harmonizing, which is awesome because you just don't associate with their music. I do wonder, here's a question, a hater question. Are they using pitch correction? Are they using auto-tune? I think they are. I think they are because you can go online and see with and without pitch correction. Tyler Joseph is not as good of a singer as he sounds on his albums. I'm not making fun of him. He's a better artist than I am, and I think he is one of the better musicians working alive today. But his voice, that's the only my only nitpick. My only nitpick that I have is that might be assisted. But then it's just like Josh is playing over and there's all these loops and there's like this gnarly industrial sound. There's like these woofs on the 2s and 4s, woofs like Toby. Woof, woof, you know? Just this great breakdown that happens. And the whole thing, it doesn't sound at all like Stressed Out, but it does sound like Stressed Out, you know? It manages to be it manages to be like the standard song that you know. You know, but at the same time, it sounds very, very different. And it manages to have this interesting integration of the song Blurry Face in, and they created something new. They did something better than what Nirvana did, of just letting you hear their songs without electricity. You're hearing them actually recreate their songs. Next song is Tear in My Heart. Tear in My Heart. Rhythmically interesting, some bloops here. The voice is really at the heart here, but there's like these haunting vocals. At a certain part, there's like this little 80s upbeat bit that kind of reminds me of like, do you want to work in a doctor's world? Like a weird commercial from the 80s. This is a little bit lacking. It's a little bit lacking in life. And then we get to House of Gold, which again, like I'm a little bit of a down note here. Kind of Mumford and Sonny, I don't know, the way it sounds, a little too folky, cool kind of Doppler effect sounds. But then it gets interesting. You know, I mean, the lyrics of Heart of Gold are just so interesting. When your father turns to stone, will you take care of me? It's, very interesting, these mother-father themes. It gets almost like hyper poppy when they're rapping over the song Lane Boy, which is from a different album. And this chorus is like totally changed, basically turns into like a jungle song with these really fast beats. And then it has this outro. The highlight of the entire thing is this outro. It is the virtuosity, and I don't use that word lightly. I don't call everyone a virtuoso. This is two musicians being virtuosos of playing together, where a synthesizer is playing very regularly, and then the drummer is playing very funky, and they come in and out and pause and double at times that are not predictable, that sound random but are perfectly synced. Evidence of the work that they put into this, evidence of the cohesion of these two musicians who know each other so well, and evidence of the fun, because it's fun to listen to. They're a very self-serious band, but this whole thing sounds very fun. I like it. It's part of what I like about 21 Pilots is on the one hand, they're very serious about what they do, and on the other hand, they're kind of goofballs. Next song is Shy Away. So I did a review of Scaled and Icy, and I was as positive as I could be because this is a positive review show, and I love 21 Pilots, and I tried to find the positive stuff in that. But it's not good. I don't mean to be Fantano about it, but it's not good. I mean, it's not bad compared to other music, but going blurry face, trench. No, let's go higher. Blurry face, trench. Hey, this is a pretty long hole. What should we do? Let's play 20 questions. Is it a mineral? Yeah. Is it a tank? Yeah. How'd you know? Scaled and Icy. That's how far the division is there. And this starts off in kind of it plays into the sort of maudlin aspects of that album, which are my problems with it. Sort of overly emotional, overly soft. The kind of pretension that can come into the unplugged process comes in with these orchestra sounds, and it reminds me of when unplugged performers perform with orchestras. But then it becomes delightful. It sounds like "You Make My Dreams Come True," ooh, 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 by Hall & Oates. What I got, like it's just this really nice upbeat bit, and then he's just telling straight jokes. Look, Mom, we're on MTV Unplugged. I'm up here with my bestest of buds. He'll keep playing until I'm done, but I'm not quite done. And between you and me, he can play forever. He likes to play drums, even if it's the fake ones. MTV told us we should prepare for about 40 minutes of music, so we'll play until we're done. He's playing along with the fact that the word done is also his last name. It's a homophone. And it actually kind of reminds me of the Up song by Black Country New Road. It's like a band talking about how much they love being in a band in a live setting. It's part of this millennial upbeatness, millennial Gen Z positivity, which as a Gen Xer I can't relate to, but I can appreciate, He's up there with his best buds. If we think about Black Country New Road, look at what we've done together, Black Country New Road's Friends Forever. I'm up here on MTV Unplugged with my bestest of buds. It's very much the same kind of optimistic, lovey, fun thing. And of course, it's all tuned in and timed really well. Next song is called Ride with and the Niners. It's cool because they do a thing a couple times on here where they get the audience to make the sounds that they get sampled and put in. It's fairly simple, but it's engaging, It's very clean, it's actually cleaner on the album than it is in the live version. Just someone going doo, and then that doo becomes the bass sound. It's fun. Why not? They put on these weird effects, goes this great synthesizer, sequenced feeling. Of course, it's Ride. So Ride was the first 21 Pilots song that I hated, and it was the first 21 Pilots song that I loved, and it was in the same drive. I was driving my daughter. She used to play harp. Well, she still plays, but she doesn't have a teacher anymore. driving into a harp teacher. I drove right, so I went off the highway. If you know Rochester, New York, I went right by the exit where the record archive is, where I'd go to buy both these albums for her. Actually, I bought Trench at Target, but I bought Blurry Face at the record archive. And I remember where I was. Every time I go to that stoplight, I remember when I was listening to this song and I was going, this is good. I hate it, this fake reggae rap stuff, but it's good. So it's nice here because then we have like this like pre-made beat, and then the Josh is drumming over it, and then like Tyler harmonizes with himself on a loop. And again, Give Up the Ghost by Radiohead is this really interesting song where Tom York is looping himself when he plays. So he sings, don't get me. And then that gets looped, and then he sings over himself. I've seen people do that live here and then. So there you go. This great sequencer goes into the Nico and the Niner bits, and then the whole thing ends with Car Radio Heathens. It just sounds like a Radiohead style drum beat. It sounds like a Weird Fishes style drum beat, and offbeat synthesizers, and a very bass heavy melody. This really does sound a lot like Radiohead. It just does. Kind of starts rapping over the piano, and like he walks over to the piano. If you watch it, it's very interesting. Anger of youth, silence can be violent. And then like the bass loops. It's so hard. I can't believe he did this. He like plays a bass line and then he loops it, and then starts playing something on the keyboards to that thing that he just looped, and he had to hit it once. And his voice is so gorgeous, and he's harmonizing with himself. And also reminds me, just with bass, previously on that song where he's talking about his bestest of buds, he's singing and playing bass at the same melody at the same time. He's like matching his voice to each note. Very difficult stuff. Virtuoso without being very imposing, So getting back to Car Radio Heathens, it leads into Heathens. And it just goes perfectly, with this double bass and this sound. And it's just a reminder of the song Heathens, which is their most popular song, according to Tidal. It's also probably their best song. And also, musically, it's the best thing that came out of all the comic book movies. I'm counting Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm counting Hans Zimmer. I'm counting Danny Elfman. Like, all the comic book movies. What is the greatest musical thing that it brought to us? Probably Heathens off of Suicide Squad, one of the stinkiest stink movies of all stink time. Anyways, there's my review. I love it. I'm very happy to have this. I'm very happy that it exists. And I don't watch Jake Paul or Logan Paul. They're not good. I mean, my little comparisons kind of mean. But smart, cool. We good? We're good, right? You're still mad about the Roman Roy thing. I don't blame you. All right, until next time, I'm going to be surrounded by leaf blowers and dog barking. There's the camera.